Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I am so excited for this conversation on keeping it relevant with your customers in this constantly changing environment. And for this conversation, I honestly don't think we could have a better panel of experts here with us today. And before we get started in this discussion, I'm going to ask our esteemed panel to introduce themselves. And since I'll be hosting, let me get started. First, my name is Jisun Hahn. I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Cognitive, and we're an organization that provides software and services to design, build, and manage loyalty. But ultimately, we exist because we want to help brands build deeper, more meaningful relationships. So this is a space that I have been working in for the better part of 20 years, and I love it. I love it because, it's always evolving. It's grounded in data and intelligence. I'm a bit of a data geek. I suspect you guys are all as well. And so it's an exciting industry, right? And this is a very exciting topic. And I am really excited to have this conversation with our experts here today. So, Mary, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself as well. Give us a bit of a sense on how long you've been working in this industry and what also attracted you to the industry as well.
Thanks, Jisun. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm Mary Pilecki. I'm Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester. I've been at Forrester about 12 years, but I've been in marketing for 18 to 20. Um, uh, and I am now covering at Forrester, I cover all things consumer loyalty. So technology, services, strategy, planning, programs, the future, the past, strategy, all of that. And I love it in particular because it's so accessible. It's something I can explain to my family and they say, oh yeah, I get that, and
Yeah.
now, of course, as part of my job, I'm now, a member of hundreds of loyalty programs. So I just get to see what's going on. It's very tangible to me. That's why I love it.
Amazing. Thank you, Mary. Matt.
Thanks, G. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt McRoberts. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Alliances at Braze. And Braze is a customer engagement platform that helps brands really create connections and advocacy, as Mary alluded to, in terms of what our overall theme is for today with their consumers. And I think when you look at partnerships in my role, it's really working with folks like Cognitive to again leverage services and different types of software to create data flows to drive best in class engagement and ultimately loyalty and advocacy.
Amazing. Thank you, Matt. And now, last but certainly not least, Dwayne, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dwayne Francis. I'm the Senior Manager of CRM and Loyalty at Cureleaf. I've been in the marketing space for just about 13 years and loyalty just about 5, just there. I work for Cureleaf, an international cannabis CPG company. Cureleaf began over a decade ago as a medical device company, which was created to help late-stage cancer patients use cannabis in the hospital. Since then, we've pivoted to medical cannabis dispensers, and today we operate in over 150 dispensaries in both medicinal and adult use across the US. My passion for customers attracted me to the industry. My journey started out as a designer, and it evolved the more insights I got, more customer insights that I got, it evolved there. And using customer data has been very instrumental in building marketing campaigns for me. And it's been really impactful for the customers as well as the company that I represent. My pride, I pride myself in creating a customer-centric experience for customers and tailoring those experiences, because in the current landscape, when you sign up for rewards, you expect to be given a more personalized experience. So in short, my dedication to the customer has been the driving force behind everything that I do in marketing.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank you
you
very
to the three of you guys for introducing yourselves and giving us a little bit of background. And I think anybody listening would attest to the fact that we've got three great perspectives, right? That's really going to give us a sense of what we're all challenged with within this industry as marketers, as customer engagement professionals. So I'm very excited for that. And I think, Dwayne, what you said is so interesting around Curaleaf and the industry that you're in. We all have our challenges as marketers, but I suspect you are in a very specific, challenging situation with a highly regulated industry, right? And one that's so rapidly growing. So what an exciting place to be. And so let's get started with that, if you don't mind, with a bit of a level setter from your perspective, considering what you had just said and considering the industry that you're operating in. What is the most challenging aspect of delivering those relevant customer experiences that we're all striving to do?
Jisun, that's a very good question. So I'll start off by saying the cannabis industry is very complex. The laws vary depending state by state. There are forbidden words in one state versus another one. The promos are similar. The purchasing behavior just as challenging, and customer motivation is different, med versus recreational. And then within those states, we have the med versus adult use, and the behaviors are significantly different as well. So the laws are making it very challenging for us. So we have to be very agile, and they change very quickly as well. So most companies can build a national campaign. We're not that fortunate. We have to segment. We have to segment every campaign that we push to the door for us. So customer engagement is really important for us to understand where customers are in that life cycle. Just to understand if the solution that we're giving them, is it working or is it not working for them. And it's equally as important to understand when to engage customers and when to not engage customers. We don't want to upset our customer by engaging them, nor do we want to waste company resources to engage a customer that doesn't need to be. And for me, having partners like Braze or ESP for dynamic content, having Cognitive helping us to build those custom groups and custom promotions has been phenomenal. So thank you both for being here.
No, that's great. And Dwayne, I have to say that the challenges that you're faced with are not necessarily unique, but definitely a little bit more challenging, I'm sure, because of the highly segmented nature of your base, right? But Mary, just sort of following through on that, from your industry expertise standpoint, what do you think some of the more universal challenges are for marketers in terms of delivering some of these experiences and knowing that you've got segments of customers with different motivations and they change all the time?
Mary, I think you're on mute.
You're right. Sorry. We always do that. It is challenging to deliver the right experience to the right customer at the right time. And so I think, understanding and constantly evaluating what is the journey the customer is going through, checking for things that cause friction with that, checking for things that make the customer want to, stop in their journey. But it's not just the experience, it's also the engagement. And I think in all of this, though, is the need to constantly innovate. Customer engagement is critical to loyalty. And so if you are, you have to keep offering new opportunities to engage. Because customers get bored easily. At the same time, consumers don't like change, particularly in loyalty programs. We've heard this over and over again. When loyalty programs change and, it takes more points to get your cup of coffee or whatever, consumers erupt and riot. So it's really a balance of updating and innovating without freaking out your customer at the same time.
No, that's a really, really good point. You want to innovate and evolve the solutions and the experiences for consumers based on the fact that their needs and wants are changing, but you don't want to do it ahead of them. You don't want to put too much change in front of them. It's a real balance, isn't it? And Matt, I'd love your perspective on that. Just being in the customer engagement platform delivery world, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I know you nailed it, Jisun, in the sense that a high growth category like cannabis, you can obviously differentiate with a really strong loyalty and advocacy platform, right? And you think Curaleaf has done you look at what they've been able to do again is by truly again understanding who their consumer is, to Mary's point, because the broad spectrum of use cases when you look at cannabis and then you look at the different demographics, again, is to have a loyalty platform that can speak to all those journeys. To Mary's point, it really needs to be innovative. It's got to be dynamic. Dwayne alluded to the importance of data, and just in our world, the concept of real time gets thrown around quite a bit. That said, again, is when Mary talks about innovation, there are certain vectors that are able to substantiate that, in this concept of data, and the ability to action on that data just becomes absolutely critical. And, I think Dwayne is a perfect example of being able to truly listen to his customers with innovation, like Braze, and then, by listening, be able to have those kind of personalized experiences that truly drive engagement.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's interesting when you think about, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but in all the years that I've been working in this industry, we've been talking about personalization and relevancy time and time again. And I think at the heart of it is, I think we all know what we need to do, but I think at the heart of it is, we know that data and intelligence is foundational, but how do you act on it really quickly? How do you act on it in a really timely way? To your point, Matt, around real time, right? It's a nut we're all trying to crack. What is interesting, though, when you put the lens on consumer life stages, it's challenging in different ways across those life stages, right? And from an acquisition standpoint, when you just start the relationship with the customer, I think that's probably one of the more challenging areas. And so I would love to know, Mary, your perspective on the best way to get that ball rolling with that new customer that you've acquired. You've only collected so much data from them. It's almost like sort of, you're courting this customer and you only know so much. How do you get that ball rolling? How do you make sure that you're delivering on the relevance and that you keep them and get them to become an advocate down the road?
Right. It's a very personalization in the acquisition stages is particularly difficult. In part because Forrester's data tells us that consumers are more receptive to personalization in the post-purchase stages of the life cycle. So only 38% of US online adults enjoy personalized experiences when they're initially discovering a product or service. Yet when you're in that discovery phase and the evaluation phase, you want to try to connect with the customer. So there are ways to engage with the consumer pre-purchase. I think about starting by using referral programs that will engage your existing customers, right, and give them incentives to refer their friends and family. And when I'm referred to a brand by a friend, I already feel differently about that brand than I would if I was discovering them on my own. It's also a great time to promote your brand's values. So 48% of US online adults regularly purchase from brands that have values that align with their own. And that's up from 40% in 2020. So, so talk about your values, you know, how well you treat your employees, how you work on sustaining the environment, how you help your local communities. But then when you move to that evaluation stage, if your products or services are complex or it's hard, you have a lot of them, it's hard to choose, you really need to provide recommendation tools on your website. So, and a great example is Bank of America in the US. For their checking accounts, they have checking accounts are intangible and they have a lot of different options, but they actually have a little quiz that asks you questions. And then after you answer those, it recommends the right account for you. And there's a great Danish shoe manufacturer called Duck Feet that makes shoes on demand, basically. And they offer not only a detailed fit guide, but written and video descriptions of the shoes. And they have this ability to set up a video call with an expert because you buy them online. So, yeah. So that's sort of the discovery phase, the evaluation phase. It's also a good time in these phases to express empathy if that's appropriate, because our research shows that emotions drive behaviors. So if you show that you understand that the consumer looking at whatever you're offering may be challenged by something, it helps generate that connection. So an example is JetBlue has a series of articles on its website about traveling with children, what to expect, what to do, how they can help. And we all know, if we've been in an airplane, that traveling with children can sometimes be challenging for everyone in the cabin, right? And the parents, you know, are feeling that more than anybody.
Sure.
So it's nice that they express that kind of empathy. But finally, I think making sure that you are making everything easy for the customer. It's easy to find the products they're looking for, or if you're walking into a brick and mortar store, that there are helpful, knowledgeable employees to guide them to where they need to go. Don't make it hard for me to learn about your products and to determine if I want to buy it. Make it easy for me. And that's not so much around personalization, which was your original question, but it's how you approach, because pre-purchase, you don't have a lot of information about the customer. So it's how you approach them. And I'm happy to talk about post-purchase, but let's let other people jump in here.
I love that, Mary. I mean, there's so much in there that you were just saying. I think that the key to it, though, is you need to earn the right to get personal with your customers, right? And
Yes.
I love the themes that you just talked about. It's about values alignment. It's about showing empathy. It's asking them and then acting on that insight. Dwayne, I'm just curious, any experiences that you've had that sort of fall suit in terms of what Mary had just talked about there?
I mean, Mary, that's a very good point. So you mentioned the refer friend program, driving emotions for customers. So for me, it's building trust. So the first time you're engaging with that customer, you have to build trust with that customer to be able to personalize later on. So you're thinking of, how do I acquire data from you? As a customer, I have to build your trust. And specifically in our industry, the cannabis industry, customers are reluctant to give you that information, even more so than any other industry that you have out there. So really building trust with the customer, if it's online or if in store, but then also educating customers at every touch point is massive for us. So we want to, even the onboarding journey, you want to put information in there about the brand, categories, and so forth, and have the customer self-select into those categories. So then you can start personalizing for them.
Yeah, I love that. Matt,
And
do you have any? Oh, sorry, Dwayne.
no worries. And then last but not least, even in the onboarding process, you want to warm customers to a communication cadence that you're going to follow through moving forward post-purchase as well. Go ahead.
I love that. It's the earning the right, but then also delivering on that promise, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Matt, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, all great comments. And again, is threading back to technology, to Dwayne's point. I love that concept of trust. Again, a lot of common themes, like how do you earn that right, and like listening and making it interactive. And again, is to Dwayne's point, this like concept of like self-selecting. Within our world of engagement, there's there's certain rights and privileges, right? Like you opt in to receiving communications, and if there's no value there, like we all are quite busy, and the concept of having a mobile device in such close proximity that that's obtrusive if we don't get it right. And so I love Dwayne's comments around kind of earn that right, earn the trust. And again, it's allowing them to tell you, hey, listen, this is how, just like in any human relationship, you're going to tell someone as to how you want to be communicated to with, and just adhering to that.
Yeah, I think that there's so much to be said about the consumer life cycle, and as marketers in building that relationship, there's lessons to be learned from the relationships that we develop even in our personal lives, right? Like we're talking about empathy, we're talking about trust, we're talking about delivering on our promise. It's no different, is it? And I think it's so important for us as marketers to not look at a data point and think it's just a data point. These are consumers at the end of it, right? And so everything we're talking about, I think, is really about building that relationship. And building on what you just said, Matt, and to Mary's point around continuing the conversation around post-purchase, if I think about, so you've acquired these customers, there's an alignment of values, you're asking them what they want and you're delivering on that. Now they're your customer and they're starting to engage with you. Based on what you've seen in your practice as a customer engagement platform provider, what are some of those best practices across those different life stages, in terms of what you see works really well? And maybe conversely, what doesn't?
Great question. And again, it'll be great to have that dimension with Dwayne as a customer. The first broad strategy, and this is where partners like Cognitive become so important, is just like recognition that it is a journey, right? And journeys are fluid and they're dynamic, and so they're ever moving. And so a lot of what Braze has the ability for brands to do is really actively manage that. And what becomes really important in the cognitive element is, you want your engagement efforts to be threaded into the broader brand strategy, the go-to-market strategy. Dwayne talked a little bit about differentiation, and so there's everything in the journey where you've acquired a new customer and you're again earning the right, exposing them to the product and all the different features, and then it's just like continuing down that life cycle. So our best practice to bring it back and then open it up for dialogue is just ensuring that engagement in a la your data is not siloed, right? So it's all built into Cureleaf is going to have a broader promotional go-to-market. That engagement slots right into best practice number one. Two is adhere and understand that each journey is going to be unique, and allow your technology to really enable that. And then three is just continue to really leverage the ecosystem. Is when we talk around Mary's comment around innovation, the big and Braze and Cognitive have an integration, right? Like we're able to pass data that we've earned the right to shepherd that helps us drive a better personalized experience for Cureleaf. And so again, it's continuing to really kind of find the right stack, the right ecosystem that allows you to deliver against these use cases. And the last bit, and who, I can't remember who brought up the comment, but there used to be, you dream up these incredible ideas, but there was technology challenges, right? You couldn't actually do it. And now you got this ability with digital cloud transformation, tools like Braze, tools like AWS, tools like Snowflake, partners and technology like Cognitive, bringing that all together.
I love that, Matt and Dwayne. I see you nodding your head vigorously because I think you know the benefit of everything that Matt is just talking about, right? Is the integration of your tech partners, the breaking down of those data silos. I'm just curious, do you have anything to add to that experience in terms of that being, an enabler?
I do. So for me, I agree with wholeheartedly with what Matt said. If I could speak, I'd be dangerous. But more importantly, it's building trust for the customer. We want to build trust so we can be able to collect that data from them, have the customer tell us what they want, and having partners again like Braze and Cognitive, where we can ingest that data, actionable data that we can use. Don't just ask for everything, ask for what we can use, build trust with that customer, and most importantly, test and learn. That's going to be the biggest lever that I think that we could really pull.
I couldn't agree more. And I can say, to support what you're saying, the biggest challenges that I've seen, having worked with many brands in different markets, is the disparate nature of data sources. The fact that it comes from so many places, so folks don't have that singular view of that customer, right? And they're acting on a slice. And so, and you've got different parts of an organization that's acting on different slices at different times. So as a consumer, you're getting different messages from the same organization because they're not integrated and they're not organized. So I think everything you guys are saying is so critical. And Mary, I know you guys have done a ton of research on this, and I would love to hear if you have anything else to add to that.
Well, to repeat, but say it a little differently, it's really critical to understand your customers. So what do they need? Why do they buy from you? What are their patterns? So you need to use the technology to track those patterns, to be able to segment them, that, what's going to drive them to stay, to leave, to buy more. So you have to listen to them. So you really have to have a way to collect the data across your different touch points, but also then curate it and derive those insights that are going to help the marketer determine, all right, for this segment, what am I going to deliver? What is going to improve their buying behavior from us?
Love that. That is great. And building on that, the importance of data, as we're talking about that, and the importance of streamlining your data sources so you have that singular view of your customer, and getting the rest of the organization coordinated, quite frankly, I think is so important. Data collection is something that's so critical to what we do. And with the inevitable cookie deprecation, as marketers, we're going to have to shift how we approach the strategy, right? We've all been talking about making sure that we understand what consumers want and need, and part of it is asking them. But with this environment changing, Mary, I'd love to hear from you around how should we consider shifting our approach in this new environment, and what can we do to ensure that we have those right data points and insights to do what we do?
Well, you need to start by making sure you have a data strategy, right? Internal. And that strategy needs to cover behavioral data, so those actions that the customer takes with your brand, emotional data, how they feel about your brand, and also their perceptions, their interests, preferences, and intent. So this is a great place to make sure you have a customer preference center, because it's not just about cookie deprecation. It's also privacy laws are growing across the globe, making it harder to collect information and use it. And then there are brands that are blocking ad tracking software, right? So what we recommend at Forrester is going directly to the customer, and loyalty programs are a great way to do this, to collect what we call zero-party data. And that's first-party data that the customer is willing to share with you, often in exchange for some sort of value. So whether that value is points from the loyalty program or it's just relevant offers. We know that 51% of US online adults join loyalty programs in order to get more relevant offers because they don't want the spam. And I don't want an offer for cat food if I don't have a cat. What if I have a dog? I want an offer for dog food, right?
Yeah.
So collecting zero-party data can be done in a variety of ways. You can do it through surveys, and we recommend short surveys, a couple of little pieces of information at a time. And it can be, through what they purchase. You can identify what their preferences are by what they purchase. And you'll see some brands that might show, say, 3 fashion outfits of a woman in 3 different outfits, and it just says, pick the one that you're most likely to buy, right? So it's making it easy and sort of fun. It's gamifying that data collection. So some examples are brands that ask you, if they're selling outdoor equipment, they ask you, what are your outdoor interests? Do you like to ski, or do you like to hike? Do you like to swim? That's all different equipment, right? And then they can target you with the right equipment. And everybody talks about Sephora, but they have this very long questionnaire for its beauty rewards members. But it helps them send those relevant offers. So eyeshadow to bring out the color of your green eyes. But what makes them special is if they've got that information wrong, or say now I'm wearing contacts and my eyes are blue and not green, I can go into that preference center and change that piece of information. So giving the customer control over the information that you're collecting, but also showing how you use it. Don't collect any data that you're not going to use. That's a waste of time, money, and it irritates the customer, right? But finally, once you have this data, make sure that when you're personalizing, that it's relevant. Is it either we think about 4 things. Is it informative? Does it guide the customer, advise them, or does it show that you care about them? One of those things has to be in there, or you're sending them a communication that just doesn't help them, and they don't want that.
So helpful, and I couldn't agree more. I think every organization needs a data strategy. I love the idea of having a customer preference center where they can go in and make changes, and there's always sort of this forum from which you can have that conversation with them. I think, and by the way, thank you so much for defining zero-party data so clearly, because I know a lot of people have heard the term, and I think there's a ton of confusion out there in terms of what it actually means. It's very simple, isn't it? It's really just about asking your customers and then acting on it. I think that is the most important piece here, right? If you collect valuable data and you do nothing with it, you start to erode that trust. I think that is so important. So thank you for that. And building on that, Dwayne, I'm just wondering, in terms of your data strategy, what are your thoughts around that in terms of what Mary has been speaking about?
That's a really good question. So there are a lot of stigmas around cannabis. So what we've heard from our customer is that they want to ensure that their data is kept private. So they don't want employees finding out, friends, family, and so forth. So they're most times unwilling to share this information. So we have to be transparent. So if I'm asking for your birth date, I'm telling you, well, on your birthday, I'm going to give you, reward points for being a loyal customer for us. So those are the kind of things that you have to, again, build trust with the customer, that you're going to use the data to actionable data, and not get information from them that you don't need. And the Another point that Mary brought up is, collecting this data through surveys. Another big one for me is an onboarding journey. So in that very critical nurturing stage, you want to let the customer know, get as much information from them to complete their profile so that you can use the data later on down the line. And I cannot stress the importance, again, of having a partner like Braze so that you can set up drip campaigns and cognitives that you can use that data to send them a communication or a journey to say, because you've given me your email, on the day on your birthday, we're going to send you the offers and promotions and points for giving us that data.
It's such a good point, right? Because I think the first part of this is having a data strategy, to Mary's point. The second part is having the right partners to be able to create that framework and the discipline and the structure, and then to be able to execute on it. So as a marketer, as yourself, it's just something that you can set up, and then you don't have to worry about the execution because your partners are really creating that framework for you. And that's so important. And Matt, as somebody who is in that world, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, the data collection piece is so critical to what we do at Cognitive and for you at Braze. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, again, excuse me, such common themes. You mentioned this a little earlier, Jisun, in terms of it's the same practice as human relationships. Like you're going to remember the person that remembers your birthday. Right. You're going to remember, again, as the person that understands these things that you share with. And again, as to Dwayne's point, you're rewarded because of that. So it's the principles that continue to kind of bubble up are so simplistic. And so, with Braze, it just allows, again, is your customers to really go fulfill those promises. So yeah, this conversation has been, again, so inspiring, because when you look at what is best in class engagement, it's obviously it's right in front of us.
Yeah, it's the earning the right, building the trust, collecting the right data, but acting on it, engaging with the right technology partners so that you can create that structure and deliver it on it in a very dynamic way. I have to say, I could probably spend the entire day talking to you guys about about this. It's such a ever-changing, robust world that we live in. And Dwayne, certainly in the industry that you're operating as well, it's definitely not boring, is it? It's interesting and unique in its challenges. What I would love to know, because I do think we're kind of running out of a bit of time here, but just as sort of some last thoughts, anything, we've covered a lot of ground, but anything from your perspective that we haven't covered that you would love to leave as sort of last thoughts for folks who are listening to this?
So thank you, Jisun. So that's a very good question. For me, it's because our industry, it's ever changing, and the regulations around cannabis. It's really important for us to start small with whatever campaigns we're building, and learn from it. And testing and learning is the most important thing you can take away from this conversation. Just make sure you're constantly testing and learning. It's new until it goes into market, then what's next? So you got to be innovative, and innovation comes with having innovative partners to be able to scale with the complexity of the industry. So definitely test and learn, and having the right partners, I think, is one of the two most important things that you can do two more important takeaways from this conversation for me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dwayne. Mary, any last parting thoughts for our listeners, viewers?
We talked a lot about innovation. One of the first things Dwayne says was about being agile and agility. And I just want to point out that the use of AI is critical in understanding your customers and understanding and determining their propensities to refer friends, to choose a certain reward, to use a social community, to take you up on a particular offer. I'm still a little wary of generative AI, working on that myself, but predictive analytics and the use of AI, I think, is essential to do a good job in personalization and driving customer engagement.
Mary, I'm so glad you said that. To keep up with the ever-changing needs and wants of consumers and to get ahead of that, I think, we at Cognitive feel very much the same. Leveraging AI and machine learning as part of our platform is critical and is absolutely part of what we do. So I could not agree more. So thank you for bringing that up. Matt, any last parting thoughts for folks who are listening in?
Yeah, just to put a pin in what everyone had said is, again, within that theme of innovation, growth category with cannabis, as Dwayne alluded to, consumer expectations continue to evolve. Compliance, regulatory, privacy continues to evolve. So to Mary's point, it's about being agile. The interesting thing is, again, that bubbles up as technology continues to evolve, is like there's, what you can continue to do with technology is amazing. And so as those expectations continue to evolve, is how do you, again, as to Dwayne's point, kind of ensure that you have the right partners in place to execute against that strategy.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. I can certainly go for hours discussing this with you. So hopefully maybe there'll be a part 2 in the future. We'll see. But thank you guys for joining us in this expert panel. And I know folks who are going to tune into this are going to really get a lot out of it. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been fun, enjoyable.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.